Hey book babe, it has been a while since we just sat on the floor and decided to have a book discussion. This is something what I call BIPOC baiting, and it could have various names that I'm just not aware of. It's something that has been on my mind for quite a while because I've seen it a lot in popular books, and I'm in the book niche. I see all these popular books on my feed and artwork and blurbs and just all the things surrounding these books, and I see very problematic things with these popular books as well. And I have no idea how this video is gonna go. I'm just sharing my thoughts and basically doing another book discussion where we're just gonna chat. But a couple of weeks ago, the whole Freya's Moon scandal came out. And if you don't know about it, I'll just say it real quick. Freya's Moon is an author that lied about being Latinx to sell more books. And they have various aliases and various accounts pretending to be various different people. They have been dropped at least 3 times by 3 different publishers because they lied. They were not BIPOC at all. They completely lied about their identity. I immediately thought of Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. There are other videos that dive into it way more, but when that came out, I was like, you see, it's not just me. I see weird stuff here. This is something that is happening where they're trying to trick readers into supporting the wrong books or the wrong authors by promising representation, and it's a lie. And that scandal brought this topic back to my mind. If you've never seen the term like BIPOC bait or something like that, it's because I don't even know if it's an actual term. I know that queer baiting is an actual term, and basically what it means is that media is like TV shows, movies, and books end up baiting viewers who want queer representation because they're queer or maybe they're an ally, and they hint that it'll be there, and then it turns out it's just so not there. There are a lot of popular TV shows that have actually been accused of this, a lot of movies and books as well. But I also noticed BIPOC baiting, which, if you can guess by the name, is literally baiting people into thinking that there will be actual BIPOC representation in books. I've seen a lot of recently published books, like within the last 2 years, that have promised a diverse cast, and it's just one. And usually the one is all encompassed, so they are BIPOC and they are also queer and they're also trans. Like, it just tries to bring all representation into one person, and either way, those are the first characters to go. But really what got me so upset and made me want to make this video is when I see characters in books described as tawny skinned, like kind of tan color, but then the author does not commit to actually making them BIPOC, but it still makes BIPOC readers excited because they are constantly described as tan, caramel, tawny, whatever. And so it paints this image that this character is probably BIPOC. And that is a very broad spectrum for BIPOC. When you describe a character that's like tawny, and I don't even know if I'm saying that right, that could really hit so many different ethnicities. They could be Pacific Islander, they could be Arab, they could be Sri Lankan, they could be Latinx. I see a lot of readers, including myself, so excited because you end up picturing person of color like me. The issue is the author doesn't actually commit to any actual ethnicity, but then doesn't back up the fact that they are BIPOC in their artwork, in the illustrations, and in the shops they license. Seriously seen this be an issue more with main male characters than female male characters. Listen, if you've been around in this book community and you've read some of these popular books, you know what I'm talking, you know which books I'm talking about, okay? I've seen a certain very popular author that has described a lot of the male characters as deep toned or tawny or tan. What really got my blood boiling was seeing a lot of character art that completely whitewashed these characters. And if you don't know what whitewash means, it literally means the book is describing them as basically BIPOC. I mean, there's so many things in there that lead you to believe they are a person of color, but the illustration makes their skin tone white. And so you are whitewashing this character that is supposed to be and described as a person of color. When I started to see art, I was so confused. In my head, I said, these characters are described as tan. I'm just so confused. What made it worse was that these artists were actually licensed by the author. That means the author is like, yup, I approve. That is the correct representation of my books and my stories. I feel like if you're writing these characters and you are saying this is what they look like, and then you don't support that, you are essentially telling your readers it is okay to wipe away that representation you supposedly promised in that book, you supposedly wrote in the book, and just make it vanish, make it go away. And honestly, as a reader, it just hurt. You might be wondering why. There were so many awful comments under these illustrations where people started calling the artist out, like, hey, this character isn't actually white, they are deeper. I started seeing so many readers say, who cares? These are fictional characters and I'm allowed to visualize them and picture them however I want. BIPOC characters are already very, very scarce. You don't really see them as a main character, you don't really see them in a good light. There are authors that are rising in the ranks to make the publishing world more diverse, but we are still a very, very long way from true representation. Trust me on that. Trust other authors who are BIPOC themselves that have said we still have a long way to go. When you finally have a BIPOC character, for people to completely want to just annihilate that because it's not their idea of beauty and it's not their idea of a thirst trap and it's not their idea of the hero or heroine, it makes me so sad. There's already very few characters out there. And I actually want to ask you, in your favorite books or in popular books, can you name like 5, okay, just 5, a handful of characters that are BIPOC and like illustrated correctly and the artwork just backs it up from, again, these mega books that we love to post and review and read and enjoy in the book niche? Because I feel like we can at least name 10 who are non-POC, and again, that's fine, but when we do have the few, it seems so unjust and very hurtful to remove their skin tone, to remove that part of their identity when we just don't have very many characters. When I have seen other people paint or create or illustrate FMCs or whatever, like Tris from Divergent or like Aileen from Throne of Glass, when they don't even get the correct blonde hair, people go livid. People riot, say that is not what Aileen looks like or what Tris looks like. They have blue eyes, they have blonde hair, they have whatever. You don't really see an Aileen or a Tris from these books as Latin or as Asian. And we're talking about artwork, licensed artwork. It's just so bizarre to me that people are backing up like, hey, I can draw the MMC or picture him however I want, erase his tan, erase his BIPOC features because this is what I would picture, and I don't see that same energy for other characters where people have gone after artists for making the wrong castle, for making the wrong animal, for making the wrong color of a companion pet. We're here to back up architecture and like pet companions, but not BIPOC characters. As a member of this community, as a fellow reader, it just really hurt to see so many readers justify that behavior. Now, another thing that was really painful to see was seeing these BIPOC characters drawn with Eurocentric features, and then they just slapped on some color. I don't know how these people have not been called out for straight up racism. And the worst part is that people thirst over these AI images or these illustrations, this art. People really can't see the issue with this. This is what they choose to create, Eurocentric features, but with a dark skin tone, which brings up whole other issues. I have seen a love for my skin tone through people tanning. I have had wild freaking comments said to me. I've had people ask like what tan color they could buy to look like my skin tone. It's just weird. So I've seen people love my skin tone. I've seen people love my ethnicity's food, which is Mexican. But our country has a lot of history of not loving Mexicans. There are a ton of microaggressions. There are a ton of systemic blocks against Mexican people. So you're gonna love my skin tone and you wanna look tanned sand and summer, but not actually love Mexico itself as a country or immigrants that come from Mexico. You know what I mean? Whole other can of worms that I don't even know if we can make in this video, but these are just some thoughts that go through my mind that just make me so sad. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this really awful article that came out years ago. I was still a baby in college talking about what the future population will look like. And it was basically all this bookish artwork I'm talking about. It was Eurocentric features, a lot of whitewashing, but with like some slight tan to it. So all of the people they put on this cover had like green eyes, blue eyes, light eyes, some Eurocentric features, maybe some full lips, you know? But there was basically zero deep tone people, zero actual diversity in this article. Images like that continue to push a narrative of what's attractive, what's okay, what's not okay. What can we say in these comments that are saying, but this is what I find attractive, which is basically saying, I do not find people of color attractive. What are you saying as an author when you accept this artwork for your characters and your readers are so devastated and hurt by this, and your other readers are saying, but this is my dream guy. Your BIPOC character that you described in your book is not my dream guy. You may be wondering again, why does it matter if they are fictional? And again, because representation is already so poor for BIPOC. We are literally desperate for representation. All those subliminal messages, or not really subliminal, really impact the rest of us. If you're one of those people that say, but this is what he looks like in my head and he's handsome and stuff, you are basically telling your fellow readers who are BIPOC that a BIPOC character could never, and that you don't picture other BIPOC people as being heroes or attractive or wonderful. Let me just tell you, like when I'm reading books, not every single character has to be hot to me. Not every single character has to always relate to me. If you don't notice by now, I'm Latina. I'm very much born and raised US American, but I also have my Mexican side and my family that thankfully has ingrained so much of our culture in me. But I mean, the books I grew up with are super freaking non-BIPOC. Divergent, Twilight. Miss Meyer literally said that if you're a person of color and you turn into a vampire in her world, you drain of color. You literally become white. Whole other can of worms. But I hope you're following with me here. I have read so many books that I have loved that don't represent me at all. I've done it for years. Don't come at me saying I'm being sensitive or it's just fictional. Get over it. How about instead you just accept that the person is BIPOC, like I've accepted thousands of books that are non-BIPOC, and move along. At the end of the day, this is fiction, and these authors had the choice to write in these characters, and they chose to describe them this way, and yet they're choosing not to back that decision up in their artwork, in their licensing, and holding their own readers accountable to what they wrote. If you choose to write them in your book, then yes, you are responsible for your depiction of them. You are responsible for all the licensing that says to your readers, yes, I approve whitewashing, or no, I stand by my representation. I hope all this makes sense to you. I know I'm just like rambling and having this discussion with you. I think if you as a viewer and I were able to like sit down and chat, like I could fully break down everything. We could go back and forth and really discuss this deeper, because you can see, right? Like I hope you can see all the threads and the way all of this connects together. All of these things tie in so much. It's like so messy. It's so tangled into so many things, but there's a reason proper representation does matter. There's a lot that you say when you say these are the characters you want to draw, and this is how you want to draw them. And I just want to add a little note here about representation. I obviously grew up during a time where like Latinx authors and Latinx high fantasy, whatever, didn't really exist as much as it does now. Even though we're still a long ways from it, it is still way better than it was when I was growing up. So I knew representation mattered. Statistically, psychologically, all these studies that have been done about representation show you that it does make a massive impact. But it wasn't until I experienced insane representation that I stood there dumbfounded, realizing, oh damn, representation so matters. So here's me getting a little vulnerable. I attended a 4-year college. I had the privilege of higher education. Dude, I have stories of like weird comments, awful interactions, all these things that I think Babbel actually did a great job of illustrating. Yikes. I made my way. I pushed through. I worked hard. I made it, okay? I made it. And then my senior year, so 4 years later, I finally had a Latina professor and I was like, cool, yeah, I'll take her seminar. I didn't actually intentionally seek her out. I honestly just needed to take this seminar and it happened to be by a Latina professor. When I tell you guys, that seminar completely changed my experience in college. I even want to cry talking about it. This professor was Mexican American like me, and all her literature just impacted me so much. She was so intentional with what she picked out, and seeing her, here I am getting emotional. I did not think this video would be that emotional. When I saw her as a lead researcher teaching us this class, teaching me literature that felt so close to home because it was about people like me and my family, it completely transformed the way I experienced education. And I remember looking around the room because so many non-BIPOC classmates were actually very lost in this literature and had a very hard time grasping it, whereas the rest of us were like, this is so easy to understand, like we get it, we understand what this is trying to say because we've lived through it. Okay, great. I was just sitting there thinking, is this how my counterparts feel all the time? Like, do my counterparts in the world just feel like they belong? The way I felt was just so easy. And that's not to say school was easy, that's not to say her seminar was easy. I just connected with the academia at a whole other level. Is this how my counterpart, right, non-BIPOC people feel all the time? Because the world is a constant reflection of them, and this class is a reflection of me. I was just moved. And I had imagined myself as a professor before, and I had imagined myself as a researcher before, but seeing someone that looked like me, that sounded like me, do it, it gave me a new set of skills to combat the system and everything I continued running into up until graduation day. And later on, when I continued my career in education, I had so many Latinx kids come up to me in these predominantly non-BIPOC spaces and tell me that they had never met a Latinx staff in their school before me. They were like, we've never had like a counselor type of role like you are for us that was Latinx. They let me know that meeting me and having a one-on-one chat and figuring out their academics and knowing that I was a first generation college student totally impacted them, and they never felt more understood than finally chatting with someone who looked like them and understood their home life and understood their Spanglish. I understood exactly what they were talking about, but it took me all those years to finally meet a person that looked like me in higher education. Most people don't make it that far, or meet someone in a position of power that is BIPOC. And so of course stories are gonna be the same. And so I hope all these authors that choose to write in diverse characters, because I do think it's great to add diverse characters, like the world is diverse. You really have to go out of your way to write a world that is not diverse because the world just is diverse. Actually stand by it. Authors, I hope you don't continue baiting readers into thinking they'll finally see a character that looks like them or like someone they love and then not back it up. Readers, I also hope you continue to support diverse voices, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to write stories that perhaps we are looking for. But I also hope we continue to hold other authors accountable for the description in their book and the artwork that they license. Whew, that got real deep real fast. I still feel like I could sit down and really make like an hour-long video talking about all of this. This is basically just snippets of my mind and just like word vomiting. If you enjoyed the word vomit, if you are enjoying all these rambles and you're not yet subscribed, hit the sub button. Maybe you'll see me cry and tear up again. Thanks for hanging on and watching this spiel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.